Hello, welcome to 10 in Tech. I'm your instructor Clark, and today we're going to learn about designing timber frames using the 3D CAD program Sketchup. This is part 5 of a 5-part series where I show you my best practices for dealing with large projects by using batch processing.
Nice and slow.
Here's a medium-sized project that I believe is ready for shop drawings. All the joinery's been detailed. I've passed engineering, so we should be ready to go. You can see I've got a lot of scene tabs set up for this model. I've got this isometric view without the title block. These were used to generate 2D drawings for the engineering review. And then this one, which I've labeled bare frame, which is something that I usually do, which turns off just about all the other layers except just the timbers. And this is the one that we'll be working with as we make our shop drawings. First thing I want to double check is that I've got all the joinery the way that I want it. I'm just going to turn on X-ray mode here and just take a quick tour around the frame. And it looks like everything's in order. I'm looking for things like interference between tenons on the knee braces, anything else that just doesn't quite seem right. And I've been through this model, so I'm pretty confident about it. So that's step one. I'm going to go back to my bare frame view. The next thing I want to make sure that I've done is that all the timber components have an instance name. You can see here that this one is post 1C, and this is the definition name. So we've been through this before when we were talking about timber lists, but these floor joists are scantlings. They just have a definition, but these major pieces here they should all have a definition name and an instance name. The instance name is what appears as the title of the timber when we make a shop drawing, and also what appears on the timber list. And the timber list is a great way to check that you've got this set up right. So I'm just going to go to extensions and run the timber list. We can see it being populated here. And if I scroll down, I've intentionally made one of these incorrect. You can see that down here I've got a girt that should be up with the timbers but is down with the scantlings because it has a definition name but no instance name. So let's see if we can't go back to the model and find that. See, this girt looks fine. It has both an instance name and a definition name, but this girt here does not. It's missing its instance name. So let's go ahead and provide that. That should be girt. Let's see. Looking for my layout lines here. Girt 1 to 2C. I'm just using the entity info window. I've also got that tool that you've seen before, the rename component instances that I also could have used. But so now we're good. Now we're ready to, now we're confident that we've got all of our instance names and definition names correct. And now we should be ready to pull the trigger on making shop drawings. And we're going to be doing this using the batch mode. So under extensions, timber framing, make shop drawings, batch. When I click this, it's going to send me through a series of prompts where I have to set things up. First, there's a big warning saying that, make sure that you've got your instance names and that stuff set up, and that you don't want any duplicate names. That's going to cause problems. And then telling us about what's going to be happening as we go further. We're going to get prompted. On the Mac, the prompts aren't as obvious as they are on Windows. That's why I put this little warning here. So we say yes. Now the first thing it's asking me is to select a shop drawing folder. And I'm just going to make a new folder. I'm going to call it shop drawings. And then we'll choose that. And then the next thing we're going to be asked is to find a layout template for shop drawings. I'm going to say yes. Note that it launches the Ruby console. That does two things. It's going to slow things down a little bit so that we can watch what happens, and it just tends to make things a little bit more stable. But anyway, here we're going to go and choose the shop drawings layout template. Now we went through this earlier. I just want to reiterate that A layout template is nothing more than a layout file, just stored in a special location. I've got mine stored with some of my other favorite layout templates, and I'm just choosing that one. The software does remember the last place that you got this from, so it'll take you back there again. So I'm just going to say open, and now we should be off to the races. Now the creation order is the same creation order that is used in the timber list. So I'll be starting with the timbers and then do the scantlings, and it'll do both in order of their size, decreasing size, starting with the largest. I'm going to speed up the video here because this takes quite a while. So this is where, like the prompt says, you might want to go get coffee. So I'll see you in a few minutes. And there, it's finally finished. Now I sped that up with my editing software. The actual elapsed time was about 9 minutes. You can see it created 62 shop drawings. So let's go take a look at those. If I navigate over to the shop drawing folder that I just made, I'll see that all the individual shop drawing SketchUp files were made, as well as a layout file. And let's see if I can find that right here. I'm going to open that, and that takes a little while, and I'll probably edit this out in the editing software also. And there, the layout file is finally loaded. The reason it takes so long is that layout uses a really inefficient way of storing all its information. It uses a zipped XML file. That's why batch processing is a lot faster than adding the drawings one by one, because we're not opening and parsing the layout file every time. We only do it once as we're doing the processing. Anyway, when you first open a layout file, you'll often get this document setup page that's just checking that all your stuff is up to date. It depends on if you've got it configured to do it automatically or not, but I'm just going to close that. And you can see that what was generated was a cover page with a nice view of the whole frame, and then individual pages for each timber, just like we saw before when we were doing it one at a time, but now they're all in here all in one go. You can see that we've got 63 pages in this document, including the cover page. While I'm on the cover page, I'm going to just quick make some changes here. I'm going to change the scene and go with this ISO scene that I had set up specifically for this purpose back in SketchUp. And then I'm just going to set it up so it uses up the entire page here. There. And I set this one up so that I would have all the grid lines on the drawing, because we'll be wanting to refer to those when we get into the individual piece parts inside the file. So you can see that we created 2 viewports on each of these pages, one showing the 4 sides of the timber and then an isometric view. Let's not worry too much about these being perfectly aligned yet. We're going to go back into the individual SketchUp files and tweak these a little bit. But what the batch mode did is it saved us all the tedious trouble of adding these, adding the SketchUp files and the views for these all one at a time. Now, we covered this next step back in the 3rd video in this series, where we're going to try to fix all these viewports and views that aren't quite the way we want them. We can see that this one is a little clipped on the edges, and this one might not be rotated the way we want it. Now, we could just double click here and edit the view in layout, but I find it's a lot better to go back and do that in SketchUp instead. So let me show you how we do that, just as a reminder. We're gonna do tie beam 3, and I still have SketchUp open, so I'm gonna go back there and load tie beam 3. Remember that when we made shop drawings, it created these 2 new scene tabs, and these are what get imported into layout. So remember, this one was a little small, so I'm just going to shrink it a little bit, update this view, and then on the 3D shops, I'm going to rotate this around to get the view that I wanted, maybe this one, and update that view. I'm going to do one more. I picked these 2 particular timbers for a reason. We'll see that why in a second. I'm going to do post 3C. Yes, I wanted to save that. And here in 3C again, I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller, update it, and go back to 3D shops. Now here you can see there's a little anomaly that happened when we made shop drawings. We accidentally got this little face left on here. Here's my opportunity to clean that up. I'll just delete that. And then I'm going to rotate around and get the 3D view that I want to see in the layout file. And again, I'll update here and save. And then we're going to go back to layout. This is tie-beam 3. So we're going to update that, update the model reference. You can see now these are fitting in the viewports better. It's got the rotation that I wanted. And we're going to do post 3C also. Right click, update model reference, and you can see that again that the viewports respond to those changes. So you're going to want to go and do that to all the individual SketchUp files. I know it's kind of tedious, but that's how you're going to get it all dialed in just the way you want it. So you can right click on these individually and update the model reference, or you can go up here to Window, Document Setup, and then you can see all of them and you can pick and choose and update all of those that are out of date because you edited them over in SketchUp. So now we're going to go through and do the dimensions, add all the annotations that we want to put on these files. I'm just going to do these two that I've already updated. And you've seen me do this before. I'm just going to just add some dimensions. Again, this is kind of your personal preference, how you like these to look, how much detail you want to add. But you get the idea. And then I'm going to go back to tie-beam 3 and do the same thing there. And as I'm adding these dimensions, I'm going to notice that I made an error. Can you see that these two dimensions should have been the same? They both should have been 2'7", and that tells me that there's a mistake back in the layout file. So let's go and find that, and I'm going to show you how you can recover from something like that. When you're doing this process where you're going back and forth. So I'm going to switch back to SketchUp, and I'm going to go back to my full model, and I'm going to look at that tie-beam 3 right here and see if I can figure out what my problem is, that these two braces weren't quite right. And if I zoom in, yeah, you can see that this one, and I did this intentionally, but you can see that this one isn't quite where it's supposed to be. It's off by 1/4 of an inch. It should be there. So that means that both this tie-beam 3 and post 3C are incorrect. So we're going to have to remake those shop drawings. So let me do that. I'm just going to do them individually this time, not the whole batch mode. So I'm going to preview the shop drawing, and we can see, yeah, we've got both knee braces now. This one that goes with the girt and this one that goes with the tie-beam. So that looks right. So I'm going to go ahead and make shop drawings, and this time we're going to save it. We're going to have to overwrite, yes. And same with tie-beam 3. Now I've left layout open, and I'm going to go back to layout, and here I'm going to have to say update model reference, and notice that it flagged these guys as red. Oh, and also I've lost my rotation and the other kind of stuff. So let me go back to SketchUp, do the tie-beam. Yes, I want to save that. This is the same step that we did before, where we're going to make this a little bit smaller, update that, 3D Shops view, rotate the view, update that and save it, and also post 3C. Remember, this through tenon didn't quite go all the way through. We're just going to delete that and then rotate around to get the right view. Update and save. Back to layout. We're going to right click, update model reference. Same with post 3C. Right click, update model reference. Now on both of these, you'll notice that I had already added some dimensions, and then I swapped out the object underneath, the shop drawing piece. So layout is telling me that I should not trust these dimensions here. In fact, if you zoom in, you can see that this one is off by 1/4 inch. It's not grabbing where I want. So clearly I want to delete this one and put that back on there again. Yeah, and this time it's giving me the right answer. And over here, I could do the same thing. I could start all over and delete this and replace it, or I can right click on it and say reconnect to model. And you got to be really careful when you do that. You want to make sure that it really is telling you the thing that you want. And don't ask me how I know that. Going back to post 3C, this time you can see that I've lost a lot of work. All these dimensions that I put in here are incorrect, or were for not incorrect, but they're being flagged as red. But I didn't really change the things underneath here that these were pointing to. So I am going to select them all, right click, reconnect to model, and they should be okay. But I really want to double click to make sure that they all are still copacetic. And then here's the one that was missing entirely because the mortise wasn't where it was supposed to be back in SketchUp. So I'm just going to have to add this dimension as well. I did a pretty sloppy job of adding all these dimensions, but I just wanted to demonstrate the process going back and forth between SketchUp and layout to fix anomalies and any issues that you find as you're going through this piece by piece. I'm going to do one more thing to dress up my layout file a little bit. I'm going to go down here to the very end of the file. I'm going to add another page. And I'm going to add the timber list. So I don't need these views. And instead I'm going to insert the timber list. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so it fits in here, and just drop it in here. I'm going to add a couple columns here. These I'm just going to use for like checklists for keeping track in the shop. Like progress that I've done on the frame. I might have a column for, that the layout is complete, or that the carving's complete, or that it's been checked, or anything like that. And you can go ahead and work with fonts or anything like that. But it's just nice. I find it's nice to have the timber list included in the layout file when we print this and send this out to the shop floor. I'm going to go back to SketchUp here. There's just a couple more things I wanted to show you that are added on the menu here under Extensions Timber Framing. There's a couple other versions of batch mode. This is the one that we just used, where it made all the shop drawing SketchUp files and the layout file and added all the pages to the layout file with the 2 views for each timber. This version here only makes the SketchUp files. It doesn't do anything with layout. And then finally, this one sends shops to layout in batch. What you do is you open up an individual timber like this one in SketchUp and hit this one, and it'll create the layout file and add all the pages in the current folder. So in case you need, for some reason, you need to break those out into single steps, or if your computer is giving you trouble doing that all in one bite, you might want to use these 2 versions of the batch mode. That's all I've got today from 10 and Tech. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll see you next time. Take care.